Hey everybody, sitting here in my back porch. Thought I would record a video, perspective on how my last year went in my age 55. In a couple days from now I'm going to be turning 56. So I thought I'd do like a year review of how the year went, how it felt to be 55, and where it started out. As things went, I was born in 1968, August 8th, 1968, and I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and it was a working class neighborhood. I went to, I enjoyed my childhood. It was a fun time, and growing up in the 70s, early 70s, mid 70s to the 80s, a lot of things were different. You've seen a lot of changes. I mean, as a child, I seen the advent of cable TV, beepers, fax machines, microwaves. Just a bunch of things happened. I could go to the store as a child with 25 cents, and I'd walk out of there with a candy bar that was probably 5 or 10 cents, get a bag of chips for 5 cents, get an assortment of candies, and for another 15, 20 cents I can get a can of pop. So all these things happen to you as you're coming up, and they just gradually change. When I was a kid, my dad would give me, he was a smoker. He used to smoke Winston, and back then he said, here's $1, go buy me a pack of cigarettes. That pack of cigarettes cost 40 cents back in the mid 70s, and they would sell cigarettes to kids. Then all these regulations, all these things changed, and you can forget about that. You got to be 18 to purchase tobacco products, and just things change in general. So getting back to the topic at hand is, let's fast forward. I'm 55 years old. I still work for a living. I'm a tradesman. I work in the pipe trades. It's a great way of making a living, and time just keeps passing by. I thank God that I'm still healthy. I can get up and go do my job, which can be physically demanding at times. I work in all kinds of environments. I could work in a deep tunnel, a deep pit, to the highest high of a tower or a building, and it's provided with me a decent lifestyle, decent way of living. And in my 55 years, I've learned that you got to do what you got to do to put bread on the table. There's many more lessons that I could impart with you about being 55, or how it felt to be 55. For my circumstance, being a 55-year-old man, all my children are adults. I raised my children, and I did the best that I can. If your children are self-sufficient, in my opinion, then you did your job as a parent, because you were able to raise a human being that can feed itself, clothe itself, and live its life. And the thing is that's all we really want out of our own family, right? We want to be able to raise our children and have them be able to be responsible for themselves and be productive people. So in a lot of ways I accomplished that. As a parent, I always want to see my kids excel, do the best that they can. And I'll be honest with you, my 3 kids did okay. One is doing exceptionally well, the other one's doing pretty good, and the other one's just doing what she's got to do to, she's got a job, she's doing the things she has to do. But as far as the way I gauge it, it's like, did you get a career? Is your career like me? I ended up becoming a tradesman. To me, that is a career, and in this society, it gives you a certain amount of status. It allows you to do a certain amount of things. Like, for instance, my son, he's going to be a doctor. That's a career. That's a better career than mine. But it doesn't always boil down to how much money you make. You got to like what you're doing. And if you don't like what you're doing, you might as well be able to tolerate what you're doing and be sure that it's paying you enough. As far as I'm concerned, my main objective up until, it's been my main objective as a grown man to be able to provide for my family. And that as I became a father and I had my children, I didn't start out as a tradesman. I worked for a utility company, People's Energy, and I used to read gas meters there, and that was a fun job, but they didn't pay that much. And as far as promotions go, there was a glut. The gas company wasn't putting people in better positions because they had a scandal a few years before I got there, and they ended up having to get rid of a lot of people, so they pushed up a lot of younger people into those positions. So subsequently I was working there, not making enough money, to raise a family, and just the regular frustrations of never having enough but not having enough, being able to pay the rent, being able to buy food, but not being able to have the extras to maybe take a trip, buy a new car, buy the essential things that most people like to buy. And they're essential in the fact that if you can afford them, you can have them. But if you're just getting by, taking care of your family, then you're kind of like in a rut. You're just doing what you got to do, and you just if you don't want any better, then you don't need to have better. But if you have an inner drive and you want to be something more than what you are, then you go for it. And that's what I did. I ended up going back to school, trying to figure out what I needed to do to make more money, and I went to go make more money. And as soon as I became a tradesman, I realized, like, it pays good, but you need to also put your, you got to make investments. You got to save your money for the rainy days. And a lot of those lessons are learned at childhood, growing up. Parents telling you, save your money, invest, but nobody ever shows you how to go about investing or tells you what way to save your money. Like, do you want to put your money in an IRA? Do you want to put your money in a 401? So a lot of my time was spent learning a lot about that. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to tell you I'm a millionaire, because I'm nowhere near being a millionaire, but I have been able to, save my money and make my investments. And again, my goal is to be a self-sustaining elderly person. Like, when I get into my retirement years, I want to know that I have a good pension. I want to know that I can pay for my medical. I want to know that I can take a trip. I don't want to be, and even more important than that is I want to be able to have my health. As you get older, as in my year of being 55, being 55 years old in itself is a challenge. You're not young anymore, but you're not old. And then you start feeling your body, you start feeling the cricks, your knees start bothering you, your back starts bothering you, your ankles start bothering you, and you're like, where's all this come from? Then you better stay on top of your vision, you better stay on top of your dental, you better stay on top of your colon. All these things can come at you, and they can all sneak attack you, and before you know it, you're living a life with a low quality, because your health is more important than anything. So as being 55, the thing you learn is the thing you should have learned way before is choose your battles wisely. And as you get older, you learn to just keep your mouth shut and just, don't deal with the dumb shit. Just deal with the main stuff. Don't get involved into too many arguments over things that don't even matter. We have so many new things to focus on. I mean, like, I like that meme that talks about people like, yeah, waste all your time on Facebook arguing over dumb shit, and that's the thing. That can translate throughout your whole life. Don't argue over things that you can't control. Don't argue over dumb things, Use the quality of life that you have to do things that are worth it. Like, spending time with your children, spending time with your grandkids. Those things came really into focus as I seen my children get to a certain age, and I started realizing, like, you know what, they're not just my kids anymore. They're not kids anymore. They're adults. And when you're a parent, you have to learn how to contend with adults. But if you have a kid that doesn't know how to act like an adult, then you're still dealing with an adult age person who acts like a child. And sometimes that's what strains relationships between parents. But the thing is that I would have to put that burden on the parent, because you enabled your kid to be that spoiled, and you enabled your kid to feel that special. And what I've noticed in life is the people that have had it, have had some kind of challenges in their life and learned how to overcome, are usually pretty level-headed and do pretty good for themselves. And the thing is that I feel like I'm pretty level-headed and I'm doing okay for myself. I still have a drive, I still have an ambition, there's a lot of things I still want to do. And the thing is that being 55 years old, I realize, hey man, I got to do a lot of pre-planning. There's a lot of things involved with me taking a trip. Before, I didn't care, I would just get up and go. I didn't really think things out as much as I do now. But I've been thinking things out for a while. I'll go back as far as being in my 40s that I started really clamping down on thinking out things and realizing. What you do is you start realizing where you are at in life, and you start accepting your limitations, and then you start changing your forecast on where you want to go and where you want to head in your life. And you got to plant your flags. You got to say you got to plant your flag on a hill that you're willing to die for. And the thing is that as you get older, you never want to make the same mistakes that maybe your parents made with you. Maybe you want to look at things and look at the relationships that you had as a child, and maybe if you can make a better relationship with just through your experience as an adult, then it would benefit you, it would benefit your family. So now that I'm on the cusp of turning 56, I think the big emphasis for me is to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row, and that means taking care of my physical, making sure that I'm mobile and I have therapy, get all my blood work done, have my colonoscopy, everything that I need to do in order to go into the next phase or cycle of my life. And as I leave 55, I thank God for everything that's happened to me, good or bad, because the thing is that a lot of those things build character in you. And to be able to say I'm 55 and I'm alive, you have to take a minute and say, wow, that's a long time. It's, in the grand scheme of things, we're nothing but a speck in history, nothing but a speck. But it doesn't matter. This is your speck. Make the most of your speck. Make the most of your moments. Start living for the present. Start living for your legacy. So a lot of things I look at it like that's why it's kind of cool to have grandkids, because it's just like that's a representation of your legacy, because a part of you lives within them. Same thing with your children. And so if you can impart wisdom, a good sense of fair play, a good sense in being a good human being, then I think that's the obligation, or that's the responsibility of a good parent. And the thing is that it's a weird adjustment now for me, man, because I don't have any kids living with me, and I don't have a spouse to speak of. I have no woman living here, so I'm basically went full cycle, man. I started out as a single kid, got hooked up, had my kids, and now I'm a single guy again. I didn't lose my wife, I just didn't end up staying with her, because people change, things change, people grow, people don't grow, perspectives improve, or perspectives just change, and you start looking at yourself a whole lot differently than you did when you were in your early 20s. And that's the thing, I had a family at a real young age, considerably. At the time, I didn't think it was that young. I was 23, and I had one child, and the process was so much fun, I ended up having another one immediately after that one. So then I said, oh, hey, hold on for a second, man. 2 kids within a year, that's a little bit excessive. You got to make sure you can provide for these children. You got to make sure that, you have all the necessities for them to have a life. And, I had 2 daughters to start out my life as a 23-year-old young man, and it was great. I didn't think I'd like having daughters, but daughters are special. They're a special kind of person, and I appreciate them. I love them, and my daughters have given me grandchildren to love, and I love them. I don't always love them. I always appreciate them, but I don't know if I always love them, but I don't know if I always appreciate them. And my youngest is a boy, and he's 26. I want to say he's 26. He's either 25 or 26. I'm going to lean more towards 26. But no, he's 25. He's going to be 26. The guy was born in 1999. So I know his birthday, but you know, when you start getting to my age, you start. See, that's a good excuse you can use, like when you get to my age, like, oh well, I kind of forgot. You know, old age is setting in. You know, that's your fallback. So you know, I've always, since, you got to figure, I'm 55 years old, so YouTube came into existence in 2005. So 2005, 10, it's almost 20 years. So about 20 years ago, I was in my early 30s, and then YouTube came around, and I didn't know nothing about uploading or downloading or you know, and then they had all these rules, like, oh, you can't put music in your YouTube videos because it's licensing, and all these guidelines. And you know, for a long time, I didn't mess around with YouTube, and I knew I always wanted to be on YouTube. I just didn't have the plan formulated. So I started putting it together, man. Got myself a video. I had my phone, and then I got some editing software, and I wanted to put it together like that, and I did, you know. And I eventually started learning how to edit my videos and put my videos, you know, my videos in a video, and it's been fun ever since. Let me take a pause. So yeah, it's Sunday. I wanted to make this video because I want to say in 4 days I'm going to be 56. And for my birthday celebration, it'll happen at a Metallica concert, because August 9th, Metallica's coming to Chicago. And that's a great gift. I'm very happy. I mean, that's one of the developments in my lifetime. You know, like Metallica. Metallica existed in the 80s. You know, they didn't exist at any other time in history, and I was able to see them at their inception and enjoy them all these years. You know, and for me to go and celebrate my 56th birthday with them, that's going to be great. I mean, that's awesome. You know, how many grandpas can you say jam out to Metallica? You know, I think it's more so now, but I'm thinking like when I was a kid, the grandpas back then didn't jam out to a lot of rock and roll music. You know, their music was a lot different. I like the fact that being my age, I was able to see a lot of changes in music. I mean, look at all the music that I own is on my phone. I could download music, I could stream music. When I was a kid, you had a radio, and maybe there was jukeboxes at the bar or at the malt shop. I didn't go to. By the time I was a kid, there was a lot of malt shops in my area, and you know, you find one or two jukeboxes, and if it was working, great. If not, you didn't bother with it. But yeah, you know, let me see. I want to impart my experiences as being a 55-year-old man, because this is it, man. What better way to do it other than on YouTube? It's a way of documenting it, because this video will always be on YouTube. And you know, if I'm still doing YouTube when I'm in my 80s, I could go back to my 55th year. It's like, oh, this is what I did when I was 55. And that's the great thing about YouTube. It almost documents the passage of time. You know, you get to talk about like right now I'm talking about the things that are important to me, like working and paying the bills and doing work around the house. You know, it's not because I love doing work around the house. It's like, you got to do work around your house if you want to maintain your house. I mean, you know, if things are falling apart, pretty soon you're going to live in a ramshackle shack, you know. And you know, as a younger man or as a teenager, I didn't really care about that stuff. But the only reason I bring it up is because everybody's focus changes, and that's just where my focus is now. As far as being single, would I like to have a significant other with me living in my world? Yes and no. I mean, I've been alone for a long time, maybe 13, 14 years. And I've had girlfriends, And the thing is that girlfriends are great. It's even better when they go home, because I don't have to sit here and argue with a woman that is not my wife. I mean, I don't want to sound that bad or that terrible about it, but being in a relationship is a lot of work, and you got to be willing to do the work. And if you're going to do that kind of work, you need to find the right person that's worth it. Not everybody that you have in your life is worth it. Not everybody in your life wants the same things you want. And I always hear that terrible thing like, oh, well, one person always loves another one more in a relationship. And that bothers me, because you know what? It's a fact. I think it's true. I mean, you can't, there's always going to be that one person that loves a little more than that other person. So what happens if you got this guy giving 80% and you got that other woman giving 20%, that's 100%, right? But it's not 50-50. It's she's missing about 30% of that equation, So, you got to pick what you want, As far as a good woman, well, if you want to hear the definition of, for me, a good woman is, first I'll give you a love song that I associate that would embody what a relationship with a woman is. If you listen to the song by Led Zeppelin, Thank You, and there's a line in there, if the sun refused to shine, I would still be loving you. If the mountains crumbled to the sea, there would still be you and me. Kind of woman, I give you all my love. That's the song. Please forgive the rendition, but I was jamming out to that today, and it's a beautiful love song. And in a lot of ways, you want to think about love songs as being beautiful, and because you want to romanticize to the fact that you have a relationship with a woman or a significant other that's that intense and that's that deep. And I'd like to be like with a soul. I'd like to have my soulmate, where we're connected. My understanding of a soulmate is somebody that you're very connected with, and they could almost finish your sentences. They understand what you're going through. You understand what they're going through. You have a commonality. There's a common string. You guys are both moving in the same direction. That's, to me, I sometimes think is in a perfect world, and I know we do not live in a perfect world. So, being 55, I mean, you only get so many shots at this, man, and it takes time to develop those kind of relationships. So sadly enough, I think I'm going to go with the philosophy of I'm not looking. When you're not looking, it finds you. So I'm not looking, and if it finds me, it finds me. But that doesn't mean that I don't have other people that I spend time with, that I am involved with. But the thing is that maybe we don't share the same goals, which would be to live together and to have a life together. So it's just a bunch of circumstances and a bunch of relationships. I mean, essentially, maybe you want one that really, really bears fruit and pays off, but if you have that, then you're a lucky person. If you don't, then you're not as lucky, but you still might have a good life, and you might be happy with what you have. So yeah, being 55 and single gives you a lot more options. I could travel. I can go to a foreign land by myself, spend as much time as I want, visit. I mean, you can still do that with a spouse, but the thing is that everything's on your terms. But when you're with somebody else, it's on 50-50 terms, or you got to negotiate that stuff. So in the 55 years that I've been alive, I've seen friends die. I've seen people die from their own hand. I've seen people die from medical problems. I've known people to just perish, in horrific ways, and I'll be honest with you, life is precious, and you should appreciate your life. But live your life with purpose, live your life with a function. Appreciate people, connect with your God, connect with Jesus, do something for your soul, because you don't have to believe, but please understand that there's got to be more to life than just this life, this living. I always felt like, service to others is the way to fulfillment. When you do for other people and you help people, then it makes you feel better. Because you're not just a selfish bastard. You're helping people out. You're adding value to their lives, and you're giving value to yourself. So yeah, I would tell people who are younger than me and still trying to find some answers, like, hey man, being of service is very important. That was just like in Field of Dreams, when Ray Kinsella was telling Shoeless Joe Jackson, like, he told him, like, you can't go in the fields with us, we're taking so and so with us. Because what about me? What about me? I don't get nothing out of this. He goes, and then Shoeless Joe Jackson goes, is this what it's about, Ray? What's in it for you? And then Ray Kinsella goes, whoa. When you think of the gravity of that, like, bro, you think that's a godly way of living? Just always trying to look out for what it is about you. Like, in all my years, I never really liked being around a skinflint or a tightwad. Those kind of people I have no use for. People who are old and still doing their job, I don't really respect that. Like, if I were to see a 75-year-old or a 70-year-old man working in my work, I'd be like, what's up with you, bro? Didn't you have a hobby? Didn't you have like a something to keep you engaged as you got older? Didn't you expand your horizons? Or did you stumble so bad financially that you have to come back to work? I've seen that, man, and it's not pretty. Not pretty at all. And to be older, to me, like, living a good life, sometimes you can look at it like as a destination, but living a good life has to be a constant. You have to live a good life all the time. You have to think about you have to enjoy every moment. You can't just wait to say, like, hey man, one day I'm gonna retire and I'm gonna be happy, I'm gonna be living large. No, being happy and living large begins now. Starts now. It starts every day of your life. If you don't know how to be happy, then you need to learn how to be happy. If you don't have a hobby or something that's gonna occupy your time, then you got to find something. Don't be a miserable old bastard, man. I've seen a lot of miserable old bastards, and it's not a pretty thing. And the thing is, like, for me, this is my therapy. Doing my YouTube videos, talking to people, building a channel, that's important to me. This is my hobby. This is what I do. And could I do it full time? I would love to do it full time. But right now, I do it for me because I enjoy it. This is my hobby. I like learning about editing software. I like learning about making a better video and providing good content. Going places and videotaping my experiences and sharing them with my audience. So yeah, man, take the time to smell the roses. That's my advice to anybody that's not 55 yet or will be 55 one day. So I'm thinking, like, what I do for a living, I get to work with a group of young men as well. I mean, kids that are younger than my children. And the thing I learned the most is, like, you know what, you got to treat those people the same way as you treat them with respect, because one day they're going to turn around and treat somebody the way you treated them. So if you're disrespectful to them, they're going to be disrespectful with somebody. So every action that we have in our life has an equal and opposite reaction. If you know anything about physics, you know that that's a tenet of physics. And that's also like a tenet of you know what word I'm saying? Reciprocity. Well, I got that word wrong. I'll have to look it up. But basically, what you put out there is what you're going to get back. So if you go out there living your life like a good person, most of the time good things will come in your way. Maybe you can help somebody in a tough time. Maybe you could build somebody up in a low point. And the thing is that as a parent, as a grandparent, you have the role. I've noticed that since I'm in my 50s, I have grandkids. I'm always in a teacher role. I was a teacher role to my children, and I was teaching them the way to come up, how to look at things, use more reasonable thought, think about stuff. Then when they became adults, then you had to switch your conversation to have conversations about what adults do, how adults handle themselves, how not just because you have those conversations doesn't mean that they're gonna do those things. It just means that you're having a dialogue with them. See, a lot of times, you know, being a parent, when they're growing, when you're raising kids, you're putting out the cookie crumb trail, and they'll be walking along, and then they'll say, "Hey, look at that cookie crumb," and they pick it up and they start putting these pieces together and say, "Oh, that's the way you do things." And then later on in life, they say, "You know what? I never understood why you would say those things to me, but now as I'm older, I understand how it comes together." And that's all you really want. That's how you teach. That's how I taught anyway. And I think that when you become a grandfather, you know, you're going back to what helped you. And you know, your grandkids might be better people than your kids were, because you're a different person, and they might respond, and kids might respond to you differently, you know. And I sometimes wonder if a grandparent can be more impactful than a parent can. And in a lot of ways, I don't think so, because the parent has so much input on that child. But it depends on what kind of grandparent you are, you know. If my grandkids want to be with me, they can come be with me. I can hang out with them, and I impart who I am on them. And I guarantee you, they know the difference between me and their parents, because I'm not the same as their parents. Their parents might allow them to do things that I'm not going to allow in my house. When they're little, they come over to the house. Absolutely no jumping on my couches, and I'll tell them in front of their parents. I'll tell their parents, "Hey, I don't let you jump around on my couches. I'm not gonna let your kids jump around on my couches." It is what it is, you know. So yeah, you know, I don't want to get stuck on this grandparent tangent. I'm still going over the way it was for me in my 55th year. The year turned out, I was at a friend's house. We were hanging out. That was in January. The year was kind of slow. I didn't work right away. Then when we started working, it was, you know, pretty spotty. But it's been a decent year since. The summer is going fast. If I'm talking to you about my birthday, then we're talking about early August already. So we've already gone through the first part of June, the first part of July, which is 4th of July. And now we're in August. And by the end of August, it'll be September. I mean, you'll have your Labor Day and back to work. Then, you know, every year we start a new year, so we always reflect on that new year. What I like to do is I like to reflect on the new year, like January 1st, and then I go 8 months later into my birthday, and then I like to reflect everything that I've done. Sorry, folks, my camera overheated, so I think that was God's way of telling me that that's my video. I hope I put a battery in it. I was recording and the camera overheated. So I think that was good enough. Whatever topic I left off of, I think that'll be it for today. But I hope you enjoyed my 55 turning into 56 age video. So talk to you soon. Have a good one.